Hmm. What if joy is not something that we earn after life gets easier? What if joy is what helps us move through the hard seasons without becoming hardened by them? It's not something that we earn. Sometimes it does that. And what if there is a difference between looking joyful and actually being in joy? Welcome to the Coming Home to You Sparkcast, where your joy is medicine, remembrance is your superpower, and this is a space for soul-led mamas, cycle breakers, and rebels with a sacred cause. And I am Margarita Rose, your host here today. And I just want you to remember that this space is not about perfection. It's about progress. And today we're going to explore joy as power through the lens of the Trinity of Truth, mind, body, soul, and not joy as performance. As I said earlier, joy is, and not by bypassing either, and not joy as pretending everything's okay, but joy as truth, as remembrance, and as the compass that brings us back home to ourselves. So today's guest is someone I lovingly call my joy captain, Danielle Longano. And the first time I really felt Danielle's joy was during a leadership program that we were both a part of. She created a weekly Sunday gathering where women came together simply just to celebrate progress, the little small wins, and the actual joy of being witnessed. And that really stayed with me because Danielle didn't just talk about it. She didn't talk about joy. She created a space where women could actually practice being seen in it. And that is powerful. I'm getting chills everywhere, Danielle. I already know this conversation is going to be awesome. Welcome. I'm so honored to have you here with the Trinity of Truth today.
Thank you, Margarita Rose. It is always such a pleasure to be here, and thank you for thinking of me and having me on your heart. And I just, what you're creating here is just so magnificent. So to be a part of that is such an honor. So thank you.
Yes, thank you for coming back. And there was no other better person to think of that for joy conversation than you. So I'm grateful that you were available and it just worked out perfectly that way. Yay.
Yay.
Uh, Yay. So before we begin, I just want you to know that this conversation is to be real, not polished. Okay. I want the woman beneath the wisdom and the lived experience beneath the joy. Got it? Ready?
Got it. I'm on
Let's
it.
go. I know
Let's
you
be
got it.
real.
All right. You once shared with me, Danielle, far back as I can remember, I think it was one of the first interviews I did with you, that you always came from a place of curiosity, looking for the good in things and always seeing how it was for you, right? So it was kind of keeping you in a state of joy. So what did joy actually mean to you as a little girl?
Interesting question because, going back decades, for me, what I recall is the simplicity of like I was instilled with beliefs that you didn't overextend yourself in any way. So it was acknowledging and being grateful for what you had. And that really impacted my life, that I get to be in the present and celebrate what I do have, who I am right now, and not always wonder. We always achieve something or get something, and then we move on to the next thing so quickly that it's like, well, wait a minute. And so it was really being present with and being in gratitude, which
Mm,
are distinctions of abundance. So, really being abundant from a young age. And my parents did not come from a place of scarcity. There was enough, there was plenty to go around. And so, having that foundation really supported me in feeling safe and seeing the joy. And how I define joy is not the same way I define happiness.
mm,
So it's very different. Joy to
how?
me is the blue sky above the clouds. Okay. Clouds come and go. And it's knowing that the blue sky is there. If you've ever been on an airplane, once you like break through the cloud barrier, it's all blue sky. And that is joy to me. So some days are cloudy, some days are downright thunder, lightning, stormy. And it's having the faith, the belief that those clouds are going to pass. So every day might not be happy. So you say living authentically. It's not, hi, I'm happy all the time. It's knowing that the joy is the blue sky. It's always there. And I get
Was
to
there ever
walk
a time?
through.
Was there ever a time in your life where joy was challenged or
Oh,
challenging?
yes. I mean, there were so many times. And like you presenced earlier, that I just had this innate, anytime it was challenge, anytime that there was tragedy or something horrific happens, I would not rest until I could see some sliver of that silver lining, of
Mm,
that joy, of why is this happening for me? What do I get to learn through this? And I realized that not everybody had that.
hmm
And I saw that as a gift. And I acknowledged that gift, that, wow, I am truly seeing, okay, there, that blue sky is there. I just got to get through this storm, and the blue sky is, it'll show itself again. And so it's having that faith in something bigger than myself as well.
Mm. Why do you think that was so important for you at such an early age to always see that? Is it just because your grandparents instilled in that in you, or was there like a bigger calling that you were drawn to or something?
Uh, it's funny because I got to really get put under a microscope my childhood recently because I just completed and published my first book. Yay! Um, so I got to really go back and reflect on what I was taught and the homes I was raised in, both sets of my grandparents and my parents. And what I realize is that that strong foundation, that that I get to be grateful for what I do have. And tragedies happen, trauma happens, but it doesn't need to define the rest of my life. And that was powerful. And literally, it's just the shift of one word from two to four. So instead of why is this happening to me and being a victim to my circumstances, it's how is this happening for me? And I am senior to my circumstances. And I mean, it took event after event after event and being on the other side of it and seeing how strong or how I managed to get through it and acknowledging that I am capable of hard things.
And you didn't die at the end, right?
Exactly, right?
That is the scariest part is because, one thing that I learned recently too is that your mind's always going to choose the familiar hell, right? That like survival story, that pattern that has kept you safe because it knows the outcome versus leaning towards the new, which is like the new heaven, your new breakthrough, your new next cut level, because it's not safe. It doesn't know,
Yeah,
right?
so true.
And
So true.
so you practice really early on. And so I'm very impressed and inspired by the importance of how you show up as a parent and how you show up as a caretaker for those impressionable children because they are going to model what we say and do, right? So how did you actually begin to recognize the difference between the true joy and the fine joy? Because I think we always say we're fine, and we put on a happy face, we put on the mask, So how did you actually start to recognize the truth between the two?
Well, that's a great question. And, I could sit here and say, oh, I've always known, but that is not the case. And it was powerful feedback that I received from a friend and coworker. And she just, I rubbed her the wrong way. And finally I asked her, I'm like, what's the deal? And she's like, you're not real. Nobody is that happy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that really hit me. And she
Yeah.
said, you're not relatable.
Mm-hmm.
And up until then, I was under this impression that nobody wanted to hear my shit. Nobody wanted to hear what wasn't working in my life. So I chose only to share what was working. Well, most people don't live in that area like you just presenced. Our minds just go right to the easy path, which is the
Mm-hmm.
negativity, the fear, all the things that are holding us back, our ego. And I got to learn the harmony between sharing without complaining and being real and not focusing on what's not working, but being vulnerable and actually opening up and letting people see the not so pretty side, the not so put together person, because it was all there. I just wasn't sharing it. So then I wasn't relatable. Everybody thought, oh, she's got it all together. No. And
I
still,
find that
it's a process.
interesting, Danielle, because, knowing what I know now about the power of words and the power of your mind and mindset and co-creating your reality, like we should be living more from a space of what is working and not focusing on that. But it's so interesting that you say that they said you weren't relatable because I feel like I also stopped really showing up in my joy because of the same reason. People, why are you so positive? It's like, well, because there's always a possibility and opportunity if you just let yourself be in that space and not be like, oh, this is the end all and I'm done, I'm cooked, as my kids say. So it's so important, really, the mindset, but I love that you found a way to be vulnerable enough to share the struggle, but also with the lens of, but this is what's working. And this is what I see is possible for me now because I went through this. And that's powerful. And I think if we can all just kind of shift our conversation into this is my struggle, this is what I learned from it, and this is the possibility that I'm now creating because of it. And I think if we can all end our thoughts that way. That's why in the leadership, we always like, up until now, when you say something negative, up until now, I have been struggling. Up until now, this is how I've been operating, because it actually gives your mind that that programming of, oh, we're not stuck here. We
Yeah.
don't have to stay stuck here,
Mhm.
right? And so I think that's so such a powerful takeaway from me in this conversation about like you not being relatable, being in your joy, because that hit me hard. It was just like, oh my gosh, I relate. I
Yeah.
related to that, you
Yeah.
know? And so
Yeah.
just because you weren't somebody's cup of tea doesn't mean that you are not someone's cup of tea.
Well, and what I'm hearing too, and what you're sharing is you started to dim your light.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what I did after that. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not relatable. And I started hiding and dimming my light and hiding that joy. And what I learned, and it wasn't like one day I woke up and said, oh, I figured it out. No, I got to walk the journey. I'm still walking the journey.
Mhm.
And what I learned was I can be vulnerable and authentic and share because I get to feel the feelings. For my entire life, I didn't even, I was suppressing them. I ignored them. Like, I didn't allow myself to feel all the feelings. And my first coach, she handed me a feelings wheel so that I could
Okay.
start identifying what I was feeling and that we are human beings. So we get to feel everything that comes up for us because we're all going to experience the reaction, but it's in that space before responding that we have a choice. We have a
Mm.
choice. Yes, I acknowledge I'm feeling these feelings. And now what am I going to choose? Am I going to choose the past safety, letting my ego keep me safe, or am I going to choose my vision, my future, what I see, and that joy that's above the clouds. And it's a choice every single time to choose that.
Yes, I when I was doing a vision project to stretch me out of my comfort zone, I ended up renegotiating to having joyful experiences, and I felt like it was a cop out. But my coach and my cohort, my buddies, were saying that when I'm in my joy, it's powerful because it doesn't come easily for some people to be in joy. And what I learned about that was how joy lives in everything. It's a choice. It's not the reward. It's not like after you finish and accomplish this, or, it's not an immature, irresponsible thing to be in your joy. And I felt like society says you can't be in your joy if you haven't succeeded, or what are you so happy for? What did you do? And it's like, I got up this morning. I get to be joyful about that,
Yeah.
like I'm
Yeah.
breathing today. Um, so the last question I'll ask you here, what was an old belief that you had about joy that you let go of and released?
Well, that was the distinction that I created between happiness and joy. That I
Oh,
don't
okay.
have to be happy all the time. And at before it was I had to be happy all the time. I always had to put on that I got it, fake it till you make it happiness. And through this process, I've learned that no, happiness isn't a 24/7 neon sign. And that's okay. That's okay. I get to feel all the feelings. And no, so joy to me is more of that faith, that belief, that knowing without seeing, that foundation, that for me, it's nature. And nature is what brings me back if I'm ever going down the path of spiraling. All I know is, okay, here's the red flag, stop. It's like that stop, drop, and roll. Stop, go into nature and breathe. And then I'm flooded back into joy, no matter
Whoa,
how crazy it is.
I love that. Pause, go into nature, and breathe. I love that. So I'm asking the question to the audience here to reflect. Where have you been performing fine instead of actually feeling the true joy? And where has your mind convinced you that joy has to wait? Hmm. So now we're going to move into the body. Yay. How do you know, Danielle, when you're in your true joy, not intellectually, but like in your body? How does it feel?
Yeah. So perfect segue. So for me, like I said, it's nature. It's really it is this tingle of noticing the small things, the small little flowers, the bee buzzing in the flowers, the way the breeze blows through the aspen leaves and they dance. It's slowing down for me. Like I'm a doer. I'm like boom going 100 miles an hour, and for me I've learned that I get to slow down and I get to acknowledge the beauty. We only have one opportunity in this realm that I'm aware of. Okay. And it's like you said, there's no finish line. The finish line is the end, and I don't want to get to the finish line. I'm not ready. So there's no like brass ring I'm going for. It's creating that joy every single moment of every single day and choosing that. Even I might be in the middle of walking through the fire, I get to choose joy.
Mhm.
So I love that you presence that. It's not something to be had.
Mhm.
And feeling that in my body is the slowing down, the deep breaths, listening to my body, being
Hmm.
present.
Yes. Oh, being present is the key for me, really. I'm hearing because, yes, you said it perfectly. We're always either focusing on what we did, what we didn't do, the mistakes, the pain, or what you have to do, the worry of the future. And we're never ever in the now. And that is where life is happening. That
Mhm.
is where joy is presenting itself, an opportunity to choose. And one thing I also know, knowing energy medicine, is that it's actually a radiant circuit. It is literally in your energetics to
Mm.
be in joy. And it's not a feeling, it's literally a remembrance of who you are at the core. So when do you know um that let me see which one I'm going to ask you. What does your body do when fear or pressure or survival takes over?
My go-to is the fight or flight. It's like I just go into myself. I put the armor back up and I hide. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go into battle. And battle to me is a one-man sport, a one-woman sport. And it really is that slowing down and reminding myself that that's I don't have to I don't get to choose that.
Mm,
I don't get to choose that anymore. And I get it. Like my relationship with my ego is one of love. That it is my ego keeping me safe.
mhm,
And at one point, I needed that safety. And then it's me acknowledging and saying, thank you for keeping me safe, but not today. Not today. Today,
mhm,
I'm choosing support. I'm choosing reaching out. I'm choosing community. I'm choosing playing win-win. And that is a conscious choice.
mhm. I love that. What I heard too was choosing win-win. Can you tell us more about what that means? I know what it means, but I want the audience who might not know what it looks like to be in a win-win, because we are taught there's got to be a winner and there's got to be a loser. So what does a win-win situation feel like or look like?
Okay. So for some people, it could be everybody else is winning, but I'm not. Okay? How many people are the martyrs? How many people are the ones that put themselves last, put everybody else first? As
Lone
long
wolf
as
here.
Yeah, and so many mothers fall into this where they start putting themselves last and they start paying a price. Whereas me, I was raised like me first. My very strong female role models, my aunt and my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, were like, they taught me, get out of my way. I'm going to win and you're responsible for yourself. So it was like, as long as I'm winning, I didn't care because I had this belief that that was up to you to create your reality of whether or not you're winning. And what I've
Mhm.
realized is that no, if one person isn't winning, then none of us are winning. You look at a championship team, there's no I in team.
Mm,
So shifting that into like asking, and it's incredible because I have this sweatshirt and I generated on the cuff, on the sleeve, it says win-win, black,
mm,
black. And that is now one of my anchors, one of the filters that any decision I make, I ask that first. Am I
mm,
winning? And is everybody else winning? Because if the answer is no, then there's another way, there's another solution. And I get to be creative and figure that out. And I can tell you so many stories of how I would have played before versus how I'm playing now. And I see the shift, I see the progress. And that's joy. That's joy when everybody is winning. Imagine if every leader in this world played that win-win game.
mhm. We would be in a different world today, for sure.
100%.
Yeah, we probably would not have wars because we would create possibility and opportunity of how we can both.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I think it's I love that women are really coming together and rising and using their voices again because women as leaders are have the empathy, have that let's see how we can figure this out. There's a way, right? That we can because we don't want to go to war. We just come from a nurturing side more than the competitive side,
Mm.
even though I feel like there is some competition with some women, but I think that's starting to shift now because we see that there's power in community. And I mean, I think you and I are recovering lone wolves, right?
Sure.
And I did see the power of being in community when I was doing these interviews every week and then having a panel come together. It was just always so powerful because when you're witnessed and you witness others, you realize you're not alone, that your
Mm.
story is the same. It's a different script, but it's the same story, or the same story, different script, like however you want to see it, because we are all the same underneath. We are all having those fears of judgment and disappointment. Maybe we're afraid to be seen, we're afraid maybe of even losing control or wanting too much, whatever that means.
Yeah.
um, so what do you think your mind what do you think our mind or your mind is trying to protect you from when it doesn't allow you to be in joy?
Again, it's going back to whatever that story is for you, whatever it was as a child that you needed protection from. So it could have been an older sibling, it could have been a parent, it could have been a teacher, a peer, and you started gathering evidence. We start gathering evidence about, so our thoughts become our beliefs. So you think about how many thoughts we all have all day long. Oh my gosh, like I can't even count them. And we choose certain thoughts that become beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
What we focus on, what we create more of. So we might hear something, and I heard you say it before, like a hit in the gut, like you just know somebody says something to you and you feel it in your gut because your unconscious mind knows it. And then all of a sudden now you're collecting evidence. So every time somebody says something to that same degree, your now thoughts become your beliefs and you've created a belief that isn't necessarily true. And until we challenge that belief, our ego is going to protect us. So whether we're hiding, whether, the fight, flight, or fawn or flee, whatever it is that we're accustomed to doing, we're going to continue to do that. And so it's the first step is acknowledgement. It's awareness. And so many of us, how many, raise your hands out there, audience, live in autopilot. Okay.
Mm.
You just like you're going through your day and all of a sudden the end of the day is you're like, Where'd the day go? What did I do all day? Whoa, was I even present with the people throughout my day? And
Mm.
so it's shifting from the unconscious consciousness back into conscious consciousness. And I heard it
Mm.
last night, conscious parenting.
Mhm.
So it's before, and I give credit to all parents, because that's taking a risk I wasn't willing to take. So I give everybody credit for taking that risk. And the people that are consciously parenting, wow, because you get to see, how do I create a win-win? How do I create evidence that my child's winning? And
Mm.
everybody else around is winning, and the limiting beliefs are going to surface. So it's like, okay.
They're always there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm going to ask the audience a reflective question back to you here today. What does joy feel like in your body? Is it a sparkle? Does it feel like expansion? Maybe it feels calming and serene. What does forced joy feel like in your body? Is it performance? Is it coming from a place of wanting to look good, people please? And where do you feel the difference? Is it in your gut? Is it in your chest? Is it in your head? Is it in your arms? Just ask yourself those questions next time. The more you ask and the more you get curious and the more you become aware, the more that you're able to come from that space whenever it shows up again for you. Yay. So now we're moving to the soul. We're moving to the soul. What has joy revealed about who you really are beneath the roles and the expectations and the stories?
Wow. So for me, all the evidence that I've gathered is that what comes through for me in my breath work, in my journeys, is light. It starts out as one orb of light. And as I process and experience, there are many orbs of light that come together to become one universal light. So it's the individual coming together with community to be one universal light, bright warmth, and feeling that within the body throughout. And you hear about it in, if you do any meditation, it's that white light that is washed within and outside of you. And so that to me is that soul that I know it. It's like when you're learning a foreign language and they say that once you start dreaming in that language, that you know it within your entire body. And that's how joy feels on a soul level for me,
Mm,
is that universal knowing and trusting that that's what we're here for. You don't hear little babies like complaining about the stock market or yes, they're uncomfortable, but then they're relieved of the discomfort and they're back to happiness. So joy
yes.
they know is there. It's the blue sky. So it's going back to that innocence of life.
I love that you brought up children because it, I mean, when you witness them and you see them, you really truly see what it looks like to live in the now, to be present, to allow yourself to feel the feels and then just shift and choose, right? Because it's and and the more I think that we as adults can see that everything has a limit, a time limit. It's not forever. I expressed to you earlier in the conversation before we went live about how now I allow myself a short time to be in the feels of the pain or the judgment or the criticism, but I am in curiosity. I'm not sitting there in blame and shame of anyone, especially myself, because I was my biggest critic. Is that you? I think that's a lot of us. And now I just get in curious. I sit in curiosity. I was like, what is there for me here? Why did that trigger me so much? Where am, and I go through the process of breaking it down. And then I'm like, okay, now I choose to shift and I'll put on a song or, I give myself a couple mantras of, this is not about me and there's something greater for me or something. And it's such a powerful space to be in because before I would be ruminating over this conversation for weeks, if not months, maybe even decades,
Yeah, and what
right?
what did that do with your energy?
It goes in. It
Yeah.
goes in, it like compacts, and that's what depression is.
Yeah. And
Depressed
did your
energy.
loved ones, did the people that you encounter feel that? Like, did that ripple out?
Yes, always does.
So again,
Yeah,
it's
everything
a
you do
choice.
ripples. Everything you do ripples. And whatever space you come from, I mean, energy doesn't lie. And that's why it was so important for me to ask you about the forced joy versus the embodiment of it. Because people can feel it.
Yeah.
People can feel the energy. And then there are some people also who have their limiting story that it's like, okay, maybe the woman who called you out had a limiting belief about like joy. You can't be that happy, 'cause she has this belief that it just is not true. But anyway. Do you feel joy is connected to purpose?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Have you ever been in flow? I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
And how does that feel? Is it
Amazing.
pure bliss?
Yeah.
Yes. And what I've learned is to notice that, to acknowledge that when I am in flow, and then asking, getting curious, like you said, what is creating this? What am I experiencing right now? And it's not about what I'm doing, it's how I'm being. So you can create flow by doing 9 million things. People like there are so many I'm not part of yet. I'm not saying I'm not open to it. The whole pickleball thing, okay? That's a story for another day. But I like
Right.
so many people are in flow while they're playing pickleball. Well, why? Why? Is it because they're in community, they're in collaboration, they're moving their bodies, they're energetic? What is the why, the way of being that has created that through the doing? So
Mm,
for me, it's going back to whatever my vision, my purpose is, which for me is to inspire others to do what inspires them because we only have so much time on this earth. And if you're just punching a clock, ouch, you add up the amount of hours that you are just existing. Or do
mm.
you want to choose joy, choose thriving over surviving?
I love that. Choose thrive. And I feel like I've been hearing more of that recently too, is we get to come from a space of thriving because that is our innate blueprint, right? It's like we're wired to thrive. You know, our body has the most intelligence for that. We just keep getting in the way of it all the time with our thoughts and beliefs and our self-sabotage or whatever. Um, so what has joy actually asked you to trust or release or even risk?
Wow. Well, it has really gotten me back to what my values are and being intimate with those values and really acknowledging what my highest values are. And my highest values are peace and freedom.
Mm.
And so, just like the win-win filter, I get to ask myself, what is my intention here? And my intention always is one, ease and flow, and then peace and freedom. So if whatever I'm creating is not aligned with my values, it gets to go. It gets to go. Now, that's different from walking through the path of expanding outside of our comfort zones. Because, yes, that's going to be uncomfortable. Okay. And I'm walking that path in one area of my life right now. And every day I want to quit. And it was awesome. You mentioned our leadership journey. And as I was walking through this path in this area of my life and I wanted to quit, I remembered, oh my gosh, in our leadership community, we say if we don't want to quit every day, we're not playing a big enough game. So then I raised my arms. I'm like, Joy! I'm playing a big game. Is it uncomfortable? Yes. Do I want to curl up into my snuggie and stay in my comfort zone? Yes. But I go back to my intention. Is this going to create freedom and peace? Yes. So do I get to be uncomfortable temporarily? Yes. So once I start connecting all the dots and then acknowledge, oh my gosh, if I don't want to quit every day, then I'm not playing a big enough game. So I ask each one of you where you're comfortable and where you aren't willing to go to play a big game.
I
Because if
needed
you
that.
don't want to quit, are you playing a big game or are you staying comfortable?
I needed to hear that, Danielle. It was such a great reminder because as soon as you said it, I was just like, "Oh yeah, if you're not playing a big enough game, if you don't want to quit, you're not playing a big enough game." And I gotta tell you, there's so many times I wake up and I was like, "The podcast. Oh my gosh, the podcast." And that's why I shifted it to having me for 3 weeks because I noticed in within myself that like my bandwidth of getting a new speaker every day, but I knew that I didn't want to quit the podcast. So I got curious. I was like, how can I shift, still be of service, still honor my intention for this podcast, so that it is sustainable because I wanted to quit every day. Like towards the end, I was excited in the beginning, it was exciting. And I heard an interesting fact that 86%, less than, wait, what was it? It was like a really tiny, small percentage of people who start a podcast that get even past 10 episodes. And
Oh,
then from that 10%, there was like 60% of them go into like 20, 25. And then like from that percent, 86 of those, less than, no, it was like 8%, I think, of those do 60 or more. I was like, yes!
so and where are you at? Where are you at?
I'm at like the 0.1% or 2% of people who like go
Yes.
past 60 episodes. And it wasn't easy. And I gotta tell you, there were times where I was just like, oh, but I like went into like, this does bring me joy. This does make me feel of service. I am also getting something out of it.
Yeah.
And if I'm getting something out of it, being in leadership with you, then I know that the listeners out there are definitely also getting something out of it. So I want to ask the audience out, what joy have you placed on pause? And then what part of you has been waiting to be remembered?
Mm.
Hmm. So Danielle, I'm going to ask you the final question. For the woman out there listening who feels disconnected from her joy, from the truth of her joy, and who realizes that maybe she's been performing it instead of actually feeling and embodying it, what is one small way that she can begin practicing joy, true joy this week?
So there's again, the doing, there's 9 gazillion ways. And so it's choosing. It's and the most powerful 2 words in the English language are I am. Because whatever you say after that is true.
Mm,
So for me, it's slowing down, it's acknowledging your language and choosing. So it could be in the morning, writing down 5 things you're grateful for every single day. It could be acknowledging yourself. What are 5 things you're acknowledging yourself for? Because how many of us check the box and we just keep moving forward? We're not celebrating the little things. Yeah, we might celebrate the big accomplishment at the end, but what is going to inspire us on the journey to get to the end? And is there really an end? You
mm,
know? So whatever it is for you, those are just a couple examples, but it's choosing and it's choosing your words. So I am grateful. I am joyful for XYZ. I am
mm,
acknowledging my support, my trust, my vulnerability, my authenticity. I showed up 5 times today and spoke my authentic truth and did not dim my light.
mm. That's powerful.
So, whatever that is, it's tiny drops perform consistently over time. So, are you going to wake up tomorrow and be this completely different human being? No, but it is a journey and it's creating those consistent shifts. And start small so that you can complete it. How
Hmm.
many times do we make a list of 20 things and then we give it up 3 days later because it was too much? So start
If
with,
you're like me, you don't even you write it down and never look at it again.
yeah.
If you're like me.
Yeah. And how many New Year's resolutions do we create and then by the end of January, gone. So it's
Yeah.
it's acknowledging the consistency. So each day, one thing. And then after they say 3 weeks, I go with a whole month. Then I'll
Mhm.
add a second thing and then a third. And so then by the end of the year, you created 12 steps to shift your mindset, and you will not be the same person that you are today.
Mm. Yes, I'm going to say that that is sound advice. I found myself um, doing that. And consistency, I think, is you hit it right on the nose. Consistency is the key because you know, my vocal coach says, and I don't know why I like to quote her because it's silly, right? But people can relate to it. You can't go to the gym and expect to have a six pack by going once.
Yeah.
You have to be consistent. And it starts with one small action. You know, the fact of you just choosing and having the intention to go is the first one, I think, is what I heard you say. And small bite size. It almost seems silly. It almost seems like, well, what is that going to do? It's that tiny little thing. It's like smiling when you don't feel like smiling, you know, for instance. But like when you realize that when you're smiling, especially when you don't feel like smiling, eventually that smile actually starts to activate those radiant circuits and you start to feel that the smile is genuine and it because it's shifting your mindset. It's tricking almost, it's almost bypassing that like monkey mind that's telling you why and how all the things are going wrong and not your way. It's bypassing that
Yeah.
without spiritually bypassing it because you're choosing to at least get in the right mindset so that you can see possibility and opportunity. Because when you're in your joy, for me, when you're in your joy, that is direct access to imagination, creativity,
Yeah. Flow.
possibility,
Yeah.
and flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you nailed it right on the head there, where when you start with intention, so for anyone out there who is committed to creating joy, because we're responsible, nobody can create our joy. We are responsible for that individually. So set the intention. And so every day, ask yourself, you get to debrief with yourself every day. Did I create joy today? Yes, then acknowledge yourself. So that could look 9 million different ways. So it's creating the intention and then measuring it. I didn't measure for so long, but you get to have attainable, measurable goals.
Mm,
And so then when you see, oh my gosh, I have the six pack, that was a measure, then it's like, okay, what's the next level I get to go to? And continuing, because then you can measure your results. We
mm-hmm,
can't shift if we're not seeing what's working and not working.
mm,
And so you get to ask yourself, okay, what worked today? What didn't work? What didn't work? Oh, I got in my head, like you said, or I just went off the rails because so and so pissed me off, or whatever. Then you can say, okay, tomorrow I'm choosing joy again. And then you recommit to yourself every single
yeah,
day.
yeah,
Progress over
yeah.
perfection.
Yes, that's totally my model. My, you know, it's totally, and it's true because there is no such thing as perfection. And I think we strive so hard. We think that we have to hustle harder, take on more, you know, like extend ourselves. It's like maybe we just had another hour in the day I could actually do and complete what I want. But um, I love, I love how you presence the importance of measuring it because what if you can't grow what you don't track? It's also what I learned from my business coach.
Yeah.
And it's so true. So what I'm hearing is that the importance of keeping track of like what didn't work, what did work, and then being in like, oh, okay, what got in the way? What was in the gap, right? And then giving yourself grace is what I also
Mhm.
feel like I needed to say because for me, giving myself grace for the times that I didn't show up
Mhm.
in the light that I intended, having grace with myself allowed me to choose joy quicker
Yeah.
because I could sit and ruminate on that whole like, oh, I'm horrible. Why am I broken? I should know better.
And that's
I've
that's the
done this
shift,
before.
like you were
Yeah.
saying before, between blame, shame, guilt, and fault. And it's neutral. It's feedback. Feedback is neutral. It's information. It just is
Information.
telling you what's working for you and what's not working. So guess what? You have a choice to shift what's not working. Or you can be a victim to it and just complain about it. So I'm Italian, so we throw spaghetti against the wall. And when it sticks, it worked. Okay? It's done. If the spaghetti doesn't stick, we do something else. We cook it longer. So, like, if something's not sticking, boom, shift. Get
Yes.
creative. Come up with another solution. We have AI now. Ask AI. Okay, this isn't working for me. Give me 10 other things I could try to create these results.
Mm.
Boom. We don't have to
Oh,
sit in it anymore.
yes. Oh, thank you, Danielle. Oh, thank you for your heart, your truth, and the way that you just remind women that joy is not something that we perform. It is something that we practice, embody, and remember and choose. Today, Danielle reminded us that joy is not something that we earn after life gets easier. It's something that we choose in the midst of it. Tell us, Danielle, where people out there can find your work or get in touch with you.
Well, thank you, Margarita Rose. This has been incredible. And I just hope that if you heard something, one thing that you're going to shift because of this conversation, then our intention, both of our intentions, which were completely aligned, was created. So if you are inclined at all to reach out, you can reach me at thefulfillmentjourney.com. And it is, for me, it's all about living a fulfilling life. And it is a journey. And that is rooted in joy, peace, and freedom for me. So thank you.
Mhm. Thank you. I'll definitely put that link to the fulfillment journey on our show notes.
Great. Thank you.
Oh, thank you again. Danielle really reminded us that tragedy, loss, and disappointment and uncertainty do not have to define our lives, just as clouds do not erase the blue sky above them. So, through stories, through reflection, and lived experience, she invited us to slow down, to notice the beauty around that's already there, and to become intentional about the evidence that we gather each day. Because what we focus on shapes our beliefs, and our beliefs shape the life that we create. But most importantly, Danielle reminded us that joy is deeply connected to purpose, to presence, and trust. That when we stop merely surviving and begin aligning with our values and intentions, what truly lights us up, we remember who we are and what we came here to do and to be. Where can people? I already asked you that. So beautiful. I will leave that link on there. And what I'm taking from this conversation is this. There's a difference between looking joyful and actually being in joy, right? Because performed joy often asks, how do I need to be seen? Who do I
Mm,
need to do it for?
yeah,
But like true joy is going to ask you what actually feels honest, what feels aligned, what makes me feel alive, and what feels like me. And that is why the Trinity of Truth matters. To really think about mind, body, and soul. The body's gonna know before the mind can catch up. Your body is the first place that I feel it, but it comes from your soul's innate knowing. And it always wants to follow joy,
mm,
what lights it up, the truth of who they are. So it really matters because the mind, we question the belief. In the body, we can feel the difference. And in the soul, we remember what is true for us because it
100%.
doesn't live inside the old pattern. Possibility is going to open when we are willing to choose again and again from truth, from joy, and from the woman that we're remembering ourselves to be. All right, sisters, if this resonated with you, I invite you to join us in our Inner Sisterhood Circle on Facebook. It's a private group where conscious women come together, soul-led women, mothers, and cycle breakers alike come beneath the roles and expectations and noise just to be witnessed. Because this is a space, like she said, progress matters more than perfection. And the truth gets honored in this space, and you get to be witnessed. And the links will also be in the show notes. So I want to invite you to subscribe and share if this conversation spoke to your heart. Please share it with a sister, a friend, a mom, or someone that you know needs that reminder that joy matters, that she matters, and that she's not alone and healing is possible for her too. That way you don't miss the next Sparkcast conversation too if you subscribe and set those notifications. And if you're listening on the podcast channels, I'd like for you to follow the show, maybe even leave a review and share this episode because the more you do, the more this content will reach the women who need that reminder, right? That she's not alone. I feel like I'm repeating myself. Okay, here we go. So as we close the Trinity of Truth, remember your mind may try to protect you from those old stories, but your body is going to tell you the truth before your mind is ready. And your soul will keep whispering through joy. Joy is right here. Just get curious in your aliveness and in your remembrance. Yes, follow that. That is your path. That is your joy spark. I call it my joy spark. Um, so ask yourself, pause it long enough today to ask yourself, what am I choosing to believe? What emotion am I reacting from? And what story is it that you're rehearsing? And maybe even what new decision can become available and possible for you when you choose from truth instead of fear. So, sisters, keep rising, keep shining, keep coming home because coming home to you is not a destination. It's truly a devotion. And you matter. You are enough. And you are right on time. So, I'll meet you here next week, same time, same Spark channel. Until then, be well and be kind to yourself and others.